Hey guys, welcome to another video on the Inside Spurs channel. Happy Monday. Well, morning still. It's still morning. It's Easter Monday. Hope everyone has had a very good Easter break. Obviously, Spurs playing tonight in, 8 hours, 15 minutes, 14 minutes or so. Obviously, Nottingham Forest this evening. And there's some interesting things that I want to talk about really coming out of Ange's presser. Again, with Ange's pressers, there's a lot of nuggets to sort of tuck into and take away from it. So we'll be talking about the game as a whole. We'll be talking about the fact that we are expected to have rotation today, not dropping before someone complains about their favourite player being rotated out. They're not being dropped, just rotated. So we're talking about that as well. Obviously, really interesting week, really, when you think about Spurs' season. Forget, yesterday and beyond for the rest of the season. If you think about just the sort of the 21st of April, Spurs' season's in a really weird week, isn't it? You think obviously tonight, Nottingham Forest. You think Sunday with Liverpool. It's like it's just a really odd week because the whole season really is about next Thursday. Sorry, not the next Thursday, the Thursday after. It's very weird, really, being in this odd week, with all things considered. But look, the game tonight, I'm really looking forward to it for a few different reasons. We will try and find glass half full, positivity, all those things. If you think about the last few weeks since the international break, where some results were good, some aren't, some indifferent, I think the real key thing to be taken out of all of those games is look at some of the players who maybe we know of their ability, we know what levels they can reach, but maybe their form hasn't matched it, is the fact that actually there's an opportunity for some of these players who maybe haven't played a lot recently to pick up form and to pick up confidence. And actually, you think about Matisse Tell, that's kind of the big one, isn't it, Matisse Tell? Son being injured, it freed up, big minutes for people down the left-hand side. And he has done quite well since, the fact that, he scored obviously a ricochet rebound kind of goal against Wolves, but he scores a penalty against Southampton. He looked confident on Thursday night against Frankfurt. I think all those things are absolutely massive, to be honest. I think that is, when you even think about not this Thursday, the Thursday after, the 1st of May when we play, that's a rhyme for you. His form is obviously going to help. You think about Richarlison scoring against Wolves. I expect Richie to be playing tonight, getting form, getting minutes, getting, big minutes for fitness as well, getting him ready for, potentially a really important run-in. And I think it's massive for him. It's massive for keeping form, and like the players like Jed Spence is massive for big old Kev Danso. I think it's massive for so many different players. We obviously are in a really good spot injuries-wise at the moment. But when it comes to this football club and it comes to our issues with injuries this year, honestly, I really need, an extra 4 or 5 players who maybe aren't what you traditionally think of the starting 11 to be in some form. I think that's kind of where you look at some of the other sort of big boys when they've had some success. It's that, that you think of this as their 11, but they've had 5, 6 other players on the bench who are in solid form, who are coming in to really impact games when they need them to. It doesn't matter if that's they're coming on to assist or score or play well. It could also just be they're coming on to defend and see out a lead. And I think that's what Big Kev did last Thursday. He came on for, 10 minutes, and shored us up and looked really solid for it. So I think, Big Kev today, I expect Big Kev to get some good minutes. I think Ange sort of said that he can expect up to maybe 6 changes today. And I was sort of thinking about who those players might be. I think Jed Spence probably coming in at left back seems likely. I'd expect at least one centre back to be changed out, which I'm going to come back to in a minute. You think in the midfield, I expect probably Pape to start tonight. Maybe instead of like a Lucas Bergvall, for example. I think Kulusevski's going to come in. That's another change. And in the attack, I'd expect Richie probably to start tonight, and probably maybe even Odebear for Johnson. And that's 6. And that's, without, discussing who the centre back might be that gets rotated out, which I'll talk about. That's 6. And I understand the idea that we want to wrap some players up in cotton wool until the 1st of May, but it's still quite a while away. It's still, 10 odd days away. So we don't need to be sort of locking players away just to keep them for that game. This game, if they play today, it will not affect them for next Thursday in terms of fitness. It won't. We've had an extra day's rest compared to what we normally do. We normally obviously play Thursday, Sunday. We're obviously playing Thursday, Monday, which makes a lot of sense. You factor in the fact that, we've come from Germany, we've travelled back. So look, I think Vic in goal. My fullbacks will be Spence and Porro. I think centre-backs, I actually think Mickey van der Ven will start tonight. You'll see what I mean in a second. I think Mickey and old big Kev Danso. I think Bentancur, Sarr, Kulu as your midfield 3. And then I think your front 3. Your front 3 is a really, really interesting front 3. I think it'll be Tell, Richie and Odobert. And I mean, we want to see more of Odobert. We want to see more of Tell. With Richie, we just want to see him fit. That's going to give you the opportunity. You know what I mean? So we'll sort of see. We'll sort of see on that side of things. It's a fascinating game today. I think it's such an opportunity that, Richie being off of the back of his last game being the fact that he scored, will that form continue? I expect Richie to play Sunday as well, by the way, against Liverpool. Ange might go Solanke for 60 minutes tonight, give Richie 30, and then Richie starts on Sunday. I could see that. I don't have an issue with that, if I'm honest. I think having Solanke keep developing that chemistry with Tell or an Odobert, I think isn't a bad thing either. But yeah, I think we're in for a really, really fascinating game. Obviously, Forest are in a very, very precarious situation because I believe, Forest dropped out of the top 5. Like I said, the top 5 is the Champions League, so the extra spot. Forest are actually dropped out now. Now, look, if they were to beat us, they would go back to 3rd. All right, so even if they lose tonight, it isn't the end of the world. If they draw, they go back into 5th, and they go level on points with 4th. But, you got to factor in the fact Villa, 5 wins in the last 5. Level now with Forest, but worse goal difference. Isn't that funny? We're in 16th and we've got a better goal difference than 7th. One less than 8th. And 2 less than 6th, which is Forest. And to be honest, if Spurs win 1-0 tonight, we'd have the same goal difference as them. But Chelsea winning yesterday late on against Brentford. City winning this weekend. Now, Newcastle actually lost against Villa, which is huge. Look, a win then, really, when you factor it in, that can be massive for Forest. So they're going to be really up for it tonight. And look, that's obviously going to cause us own problems and things like that. But like I said, it's a great opportunity for a lot of these players to actually really stake a claim to actually starting Thursday week, In theory, you could rotate the whole team. Yes, you could, but I just think don't overdo it, if you know what I mean. Don't over-rotate. Now, we're going to be forced into changes. Maddison, he won't be playing. Sonny's not playing. You would expect a centre-back to kind of drop out naturally as well. So we'd have made like 3 changes anyway. What Ange's trying to do is, Johnson's played a lot of minutes recently. Use Odobert. Odobert's fresh as a daisy. Use him. He probably wants to keep Desi Udogie as healthy as possible. I could see Destiny starting today, by the way, and Porro maybe being rotated out because, Forest, very quick wingers, and defensively you want some pace against them. I could understand that. But at the same time, you're still rotating out a fullback. And again, the reason why I say you could play Destiny today is looking ahead to Sunday against Liverpool. I could totally see Destiny. They're just going, mate, you're not even going anywhere near that pitch. He's had tons of success against Salah. He's been very good against Salah. I know a lot of Spurs fans think Jed Spence is the only fullback we have that's had success against Salah. I watched it last season. Desi Udogie, I don't think Salah had a shot at goal because of Destiny Udogie. So I've seen it myself. Did I watch WWE? I watched both days, mate. I watched both days. We should not rotate more than 4 players today. I think you'll see at least 4. I think you could see anywhere between 4 and 6. Like I said, you're going to rotate 3 naturally. Odebear make it 4. Centre back, midfield, left back. Yeah, I could see maybe 5. That's probably where I'm thinking is 5, but 6 wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't. I'd like to see Danso and Mickey at the back. Yeah, he could go Romero again, but he also might look at it again with my thinking with Mickey starting. Is Ben Davies can come on for the last half an hour. You know, he could obviously start with Romero and you know, change it that way, and maybe Danso Romero start, and then Davies comes on for Romero potentially. But Romero's played a lot of football recently. Again, it's, you know, it's that weird amount of time between. It's a weird amount of time between, you know, playing today and playing in 10 days' time against Bodo Glimt, and how you manage the squad. Because, you know, it's not like we play them in a week and you think, well, we'll rest this game, we'll just give them a whole week off. It's not that, you know, it's 10 days. It might be a little bit too long in terms of obviously that break, you know. So we'll sort of see. Liam, how are you, my friend? Happy birthday, Tanya. 40 today. 40 today. We'll have an absolute belter of a day. Hell of a weekend to have a birthday. Bank holidays and all. Hell of a weekend. You see us getting something tonight? Yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you think you're going to win? Do you think we're going to draw? Do you think we're going to lose? I'm probably in the camp that I think we'll probably get a draw just because of such heavy rotation. I think 1-1 is probably where I'm thinking tonight. I think such heavy rotation is going to cause a slight bit of chemistry issues, which it doesn't shock me. Again, like I said, us winning this game won't change the Premier League season. You know, if we win today, Spurs would go up into 13th, right? And we'd go 6 points behind Brentford, 4 points behind Palace, 8 points behind Fulham, who's in 9th, 9 points behind Bournemouth in 8th, right? Obviously, 5 games to go. It'd be lovely if we were just sitting around at least mid-table. Like I said, it's not been a great season, but, you know, if you could sit in and around mid-table, somewhere between, you know, like that 10th to 12th spot, it's something. You know, it would have meant that your league form has picked up quite massively. And then in turn, that will fester into your Europa League performance. Again, with Europa League, it will always just be about winning, getting through, winning, getting through. You know what I mean? But there's no harm in having a little bit of form going into it, you know. Big T's been a member for 2 months. Europa League, incoming. Sorry, absolutely, mate. Absolutely bloody legend as well. 3 weeks. How are you? We should just relax and play with enjoyment tonight. Yeah, look, Spurs are going to have a lot of possession tonight. A lot. You know, I was looking at sort of Forest and some of their recent games in terms of, you know, just possession and things like that. Against, you know, Everton at home, they had 42% possession. Everton aren't renowned to being this possession-based team. They had 47 away to Villa. They had 31% possession at home to Manchester United. I mean, Brighton in the Cup, they had 47% away. At Ipswich away, they had 44%. So they're not a massive possession-based team. So Spurs are going to have a lot of the ball. It's, you know, again, we struggle obviously with that low block and how we sort of get around it. But again, it's sort of negating their counter-attacking ability, because they're gonna get a few counter-attacks tonight because they got pace. You know, you got Alanga, you got Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs White obviously is no slow coach, you know, and obviously Chris Woods, back from injury, before the injury was in really great form, scoring a lot of goals. So they're going to create chances tonight, and I think that's why maybe he goes with Mickey, just kind of negates some of their pace. And obviously that's why I'm saying you could go Desi Doggy and Jed Spence. So, you know, you pace at the back with Kev Dancer at centre back as well. You could go with. There's a lot of pace there, you know. So yeah, we'll sort of see. Steve, how are you? Of course, Steve reckons 5-0. Shock. Hi, Andy. I got a hospitality ticket for the Liverpool Spurs game. Do you think there's any issues sitting amongst all the Liverpool fans? It's up to you what you feel comfortable with, mate. You're going to the Spurs game. You'll be supporting Spurs. I'd be wary of maybe not making myself a target. But there's not, as long as you behave yourself, that's the important thing. There's nothing worse than sitting with other fans and causing havoc. I've been at games, not just Spurs. I've been at other games, and that's been an issue. And it's no one likes those humans. I could say something stronger, but don't want to be demonetized. Graham, how are you? I'd be happy if we put in a decent performance, avoid seeing mistakes like we made against Wolves, give minutes to which players need the most. Again, like I said, the performance will be really good tonight to get a good one, but it's such a great opportunity to get, the Oda Bears, for example. I think Oda Bear starts tonight. I think Oda Bear starts on Sunday potentially as well. Now, obviously, remember, Bodo Glimt, we play at home on Thursday. They also will factor in the fact we're not going to have to travel. When you think of West Ham, a week Sunday, that's the game in between the two Europa League games, what that team's going to look like, I think is going to be super rotated. You'll see another 6 or 7 changes. Sometimes the fluidity of the game tonight won't be good. Just be prepared for that. And then sometimes it can be really great. Just be prepared. As long as the spine is at least structured, that's what I'm saying. At least one of the centre-backs is starting, Vic starting, a Bentancur. It will provide some balance, okay? And that's why it's massive, all right? If our defence played slightly more compact, as we did against Frankfurt, they play more on the counter, we should be okay. Don't leave too much behind. Look, we'll give them the opportunity to play the ball in behind. And like I said, that's why maybe he goes Spence and a Doggy, as well as obviously Mickey, because then with obviously Big Kev, that's a lot of pace at the back there. They can cover big amounts of space on their own. Again, it's that balance between tonight and then obviously Thursday week. It's 10 days. I mean, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, it's basically 10 days. That's a lot of time between, not playing some players for a couple of weeks. They're going to get a little bit rusty, lose some match sharpness, and you don't want that going into a Europa tie. So I think tonight you'll still see some key first team players playing. Like I said, I could see Solanke getting 60 minutes. One of the centre-backs, Bentancur, Kulu, obviously, and be massive for Kulu tonight to get, another big batch of 60, 70, 80 minutes to get more match fitness, get more match sharpness. Opportunity for Jed Spence to keep up some form and keep up some sharpness as well. And again, obviously, it'd be great for this next week to just kind of dodge all injuries, but it may happen and we just need to be prepared for that. And that's why the rotation's key. You're going to see some players rotated tonight. I expect some of them to come back in on Sunday, and again, others to be rotated out. Everyone's had at least 60 minutes or whatever, keeps everyone fresh, Moore should start. I don't think Moore starts tonight. I think it'll be Tell. I think it'll be Tell and Oda Bear as the wingers personally. We'll win tonight. We'll lose against Liverpool, draw with the Spammers, but in between, we will somehow win both legs and get through to the final. Well, there you go. I'll tell you what, if someone said to you, win, lose, draw, next 3 games, you win both the Europa League ties, I think all Spurs fans would probably go, yeah, I could work with that. I think you would. I think you'd go, we can work with that. Now, means you're in the final. And the final is a month today, by the way. I think it's the 21st of May is the Europa League final. So it's not long when you think about it. 8th of May is obviously the second leg. That's not long as well to really know if you're actually going to be kicking around for the rest of the season. Like I said, the first leg isn't going to be a cup final as such. The second leg obviously will be. But, when we talked about last Thursday, does the season extend or does the season finish? On the 8th of May, it's the exact same question. Does the season extend or does it finish? So that's why tonight, build a little bit of form, rotate some players in, get some more fitness. Like I said, Kulu getting some more fitness, huge. Absolutely huge. Who else? Oda Bear. I think Oda Bear, Richie getting more fitness. Sorry, that's the other one. Those two, more fitness. Oda Bear for me is a big one. Oda Bear for me is a really, really interesting one. No, I keep forgetting. Kev Danso, Kulu, Richie, minutes. Get fitness into their bodies. Oda Bear for me is a bit of an interesting one because Tell obviously hit some form. We've benefited from it. Son's obviously had that injury. We'll see what happens with Son when he's back. I would expect him to be back for the Bodo Glimt first leg. I wouldn't expect to see Son this week. Yeah, do you know what? I wouldn't even risk it. I'd say wrap him up in cotton wool, get him ready for Thursday next week. Odegaard, though, has that now chance to get regular minutes. And I expect him to play both tonight and Sunday. And I would say Tell maybe starts tonight and then Johnson starts against Liverpool, maybe. I don't know. But that's the way I would go about it. Get Odegaard as many minutes this week as possible. Save Tell's legs for next week. Save Son. Johnson obviously gets some good minutes, but nothing too mental to have him too tired to play against Bodo Glimt if necessary. So, yeah, I think that's probably the way I'd go about it, but we'll sort of see. Hey, mate, I said at the start of the season I'd take 17th to win a trophy. I'm still happy. Well, I don't know if we win. I don't know if finishing 17th and getting like the Carling Cup would be great, but the Europa League, you win that. It's Champions League football next year. It's what we all crave and want as football fans, is to be in Champions League, It's what we want. I think I'd leave Son at the Europa matches now. I'd only use him in the league. No, play him in the bigger games. You're going to need Son in the bigger games, personally. But more importantly, with Son, get him fit. That's all that matters now, is getting Son fit. Because he's not been fit for a little while. He's been injured. Rest him, get him right, bring him back when he's ready. And if that means he's back for the second leg instead of the first leg, then that's what that means. Just don't. For me, it's like break glass in case of an emergency with him. But like, if you can get through those two ties and Son plays a minor part because of all the injuries, then you go, right, now we got, it's only like, 2 weeks after the semi-final second leg to the final, going, right, we've got 2 weeks to get him ready. 2 weeks, get him ready, go from there. Get him well for the final if we can get away with it. Exactly. This is the thing now, is managing the squad correctly, not don't give them a lack of minutes. Keep them, going, keep them fresh, but keep them sharp. And then if it is they're getting, just over a week rest heading into the Bodo Glimt first leg, Jesus wept. There's a lot of those players that are probably going, wouldn't mind a little week's rest. That's why Romero might start tonight. And that's why I'm an R in a lot. I think Romero could start tonight. And even Mickey, they could both start tonight even. And you might then go, then they're not starting at the weekend. We'll play Davies and Danso. Those two boys will start at the weekends. Therefore, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's a long time for Mickey and Kuti just to get 100% right. It's 8-9 days. That's why they might do it Destiny or Doggy. They might do that as well, and then go, Destiny's going to start tonight. Right. Not going to see him again until Thursday week. I'm talking myself out of my own team now. That's what I'm doing. I'm overthinking it. I'm talking myself out of it. I expect 5 or 6 guys who play Thursday to start tonight. And the other few that don't start tonight, I'd expect to see against Liverpool, with obviously the ability to then sub them off maybe. And that's the way I do it. So then you are going to play, like, for example, Pape Matar playing for 90 minutes, both games this week, I think. Use Basuma where necessary, use Archie Gray, use Big Kev, use Davies, Odegaard and Jono, and use those guys. Use Richie. This is such an amazing week for Richie to get minutes, because we play Monday, we play Sunday. There's a big old gap between those two games as well. That's one thing. Solanke might start tonight. Richie might get half hour. Richie starts Sunday. So you give Solanke 9 days rest. I'm just not even going to predict the team anymore, because I'm talking myself out of every single player that I put in that team. I'm talking myself out of every single player now. Annie, I think we should go strong tonight, try and get the win if we can. Yeah, I agree. Even though, look, we're not getting top 4, even though I know that, you're not really going to get 8th, are you? You're not going to get 9th probably. It's what these games can do to affect Thursdays. That's why Ange has already said he's making a handful of changes. I expect those changes, but I also kind of think I think a few really big names will start tonight and then might come off. They might sub them off, early doors or whatever. Sunday, we won't see some of these players. They might be on the bench, but you won't see a Romero on next Sunday. You won't see a Mickey Van der Ven next Sunday. You won't see a Dominic Solanke next Sunday. You'll see all the other players who need to get minutes playing big minutes next Sunday. But between now and Bodo-Glimt being 10 days, it's a great opportunity to keep them going, sprinkle in some other players, build their form up, and then when you rotate the other players out who you're going to want for Thursday week, because these other players maybe have got a little bit of form against Forest, festers into the rest of them maybe. So we'll sort of see. Question, does first choice defence start or attack? Who needs the minutes the most? Both do really, but if I had to pick one, I'd probably say attack. Who needs the rest most? It'd be defense, but attack, I'd probably say. So we'll sort of see. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that one. Well, I think that's what I'd go with. Look, we may be live after the game tonight, obviously doing the review. It's going to be a late finish. I've had 2 4 a.m., 5 a.m. finishes in the last 2 days. I'm pretty knackered. You can probably see my face. I look it. So we may be live after the game. If not, I'll be back tomorrow to discuss the game. Obviously, I will be back tomorrow regardless doing the loan roundup because it's my favourite video to do every single week. But we'll sort of see how we go. But look, thank you for joining me this morning. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Wherever you are in the world, look after yourselves. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your mornings, your afternoons, your evenings, wherever you are in the world. And I'll speak to you all really, really soon to talk a lot more about Spurs. Take care, everyone. Peace.